So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ingrid Boudet, and I am founder of No More Noise Toronto. We are very happy that you guys have chosen to attend today. We're going to go through quickly the agenda here. So I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping and a land acknowledgement, then a little intro to No More Noise Toronto. And then we're going to have the main event, the noise camera presentation from Reuben Peckham from Intelligent Instruments. And then we're going to have some Q&A. And then I'm going to come back in and wrap up at about 12:50 today. So people can get on their way to lunch or on their way to their next meeting. So just so you know, we are in webinar mode. So that means your cameras are off, your microphones are muted, but the chat is open and the Q&A is enabled. So we do invite you to put your questions into the Q&A, and I have someone who is helping moderate that on the back end. So I want to do a little bit of a land acknowledgement here to acknowledge the relationship that the Indigenous people had to this land through sound. I learned about this through this book called Sounds of Life by Karen Baker, and it dives into how they listened to the ecosystems around them and knew them intimately, and how now through AI, we're actually learning more and also confirming how much they knew. So may we get back to that level of deep understanding and respect and care for the amazing world around us. No More Noise Toronto is a collaborative grassroots effort. We are a 100% volunteer organization run by donations, funded by donations, and you can see the nice list of organizations that have come to support this cause for a better sounding Toronto. I am very touched and heartened by the many different organizations that I get to work with. One of the things that makes No More Noise Toronto different is that we take a data-centered approach to noise. And so what that means is we're actually collecting crowdsourced information through the Not 311 noise report. And we're also take week-long measurements from people's homes. And so that is a picture there of what a week-long measurement actually looks like. And so on the note of data, I like to know more about you and your relationship to sound and noise. So you can scan the QR code on your phone or also access through the Menti number there, and that will allow you to ask some or answer some questions over the course of the webinar, and then we'll get to those at the end, so you can take your time in answering those. So with this noise camera technology, there's lots of questions around it, and we've heard about it, but they are being used in many other cities around the world. And Toronto often looks to New York to see what they're doing. So I was thrilled to hear that New York is, after a number of years, is actually going ahead with the purchase of more SoundVue cameras to combat the vanity noise on their streets from vehicles. So I decided to use the Contact Us page on SoundVue website and was just amazed and thrilled when Reuben actually responded. So you never know what happens with those Contact Us pages. So, you know, Reuben's going to come on and he's going to answer some questions for us and share the technology from one of the leaders in the field. So with that, I think I'm going to stop sharing and welcome Reuben Peckham, Director of 24 Acoustics Limited and Intelligent Instruments Limited. I will stop sharing here. And Reuben, it is all yours.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. So I was going to say good afternoon, everyone. I guess it is afternoon for you, but it's nearly evening for me. So yeah, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. I'm going to try and share my screen. It's disabled.
We did not test that, did we? Let me get that. Make host. Yes.
Okay, now we're going.
Excellent.
Is that working? Can you see that?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm going to actually just back out for a minute because everyone needs to have their volumes. Yeah, everyone needs to have their volumes up, please, because I have some audio within this and some video to play. So with a bit of luck, that is now going to work. Let's try again. Right, okay. I think we're going now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so So yeah, I'm going to talk for probably 25 minutes or so, and just tell you a little bit about the noise camera technology that we have developed and which is in use in a number of cities in the US and over here in London, and and has potential to go much further from the interesting inquiries that we receive around the world. So I'll tell you a very brief amount about myself and my background, about the two companies that I run, 24 Acoustics Intelligent Instruments, and then I'll talk just very briefly about the health effects of exposure to noise, which really is where this all comes from. If there weren't adverse effects to excess noise exposure, we probably wouldn't all be here. We'd be doing something else. And then we'd talk a little bit about noise from road vehicles, and whether any of that noise is avoidable. And then I'll tell you about sort of two little case studies, if you like. So Kensington, Chelsea, which is a very wealthy borough in London, here in the UK, and also New York City. And then I'll just introduce you to our technology, SoundVue, our noise camera system, a very brief introduction to it and how it works, and also some of the additional services that go with it, which is provided by third parties. So me, I'm Reuben Peckham. I'm an acoustic engineer. That is my job. I've been doing that for, I'd say, nearly 30 years. So I have undergraduate, postgraduate degrees in engineering acoustics. So I'm a chartered engineer. I'm not a mechanical engineer. I actually specialised in engineering acoustics from age 18 and studied at university. So I'm a director of 24 Acoustics and Intelligent Instruments. 24 Acoustics is a consultancy business specialising in engineering acoustics, noise and vibration. And Intelligent Instruments is our spin-off company that now manufactures, designs, patents our instrumentation that we make, which includes our SoundVue noise camera. So in terms of the two companies, so 24 Acoustics, as I said, we're consulting engineers in noise and vibration. We act as expert witnesses. A lot of my consultancy work is as an expert witness, which actually is, when you think about it, is quite useful when we're talking about legal enforcement of codes relating to excess noise from road vehicles. We need all that stuff to hold up in court. We haven't been called yet as an expert witness in relation to SoundVue activities, but I'm sure we will at some point. 24 Acoustics established in 2004, so 20 years this year. We're based in Southampton, which, if any of you know, the UK is an hour south of London. It's a big cruise terminal, a lot of cruise ships going out of Southampton. And we also have a satellite office in London. We undertake work throughout the UK, occasionally overseas. Our interest in instrumentation came from work in the wind farm world, wind turbine world. And wind turbines make a particular characteristic of sound when the blade passes the tower, and it's a whoosh. So as the blade rotates, it's a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. But sometimes that whoosh becomes a bang. And when that becomes a bang, if you happen to live anywhere near it, it can be very disturbing. And there was a period when wind turbines and wind farms here were being shut down as a result of that ban. It was about a decade ago. So we were very involved in that in our consultancy work, and we developed an algorithm to quantify the severity of the bang. And we then looked for a noise monitor to implement that algorithm, and we couldn't find one. There was nothing on the market that we could buy, so we built our own. And that's how we got into instrumentation, making instrumentation. And the monitor we developed is called, I'll come back to it in a minute, it's called Intelligent Noise Monitor, or INM. Time passed and we were getting more and more demand for the instrumentation we were producing. So we decided to separate that aspect of the business, and we started Intelligent Instruments in 2018. And that is solely a R&D, research and development, design, patent, manufacture, various different products, all for measuring noise and vibration, and that includes our noise camera system. So products that we make, I won't bore you for too long on this, but a general environmental noise monitor, which we use in our consultancy work, and we sell to third parties as well. So that can be used for monitoring any noise, but in particular construction sites, wind farms, antisocial behaviour, industry, etc. We make a nuisance monitor. A nuisance monitor is a noise monitor which you put in people's homes when they have a particular issue, they're complaining about a particular type of noise, neighbourhood noise, basically. And it's just unique because they press a button within it, and when they hear noise they don't like, and it records a period of audio. So it's a way of obtaining audio, but without impinging on their privacy. We have camera-based environmental noise monitoring systems, and then we also build bespoke systems as well, according to user requirements. And of course, which is why we're here today, our noise cameras, which this is for detecting excess noise from motor vehicles. I'm changing that now. I normally say for detecting excess noise from nuisance vehicles. So, okay, if I asked any of you what the adverse effects of excess exposure to noise, or what the health effects are, I think you'd probably say risk of hearing damage. And you're probably also aware of other risks there, and I suspect you'd probably also say sleep disturbance. Sleep disturbance in itself, perhaps if it occurs as a one-off, maybe not the end of the world, but if it occurs regularly, then it can build into more serious issues. So cardiovascular illness, hypertension, stroke, heart attacks, heart disease. And of course, if you happen to be someone that is out and about the following day, driving or using machinery, or perhaps you're somebody that needs to focus particularly on particular activity, then the risk of that is of sleep disturbances can have further consequences. Mental health, so obviously sleep disturbance and the stress associated with excess exposure to noise, stress, anxiety, depression. And there's a study by the World Health Organization. They have the same similar figures actually for Europe, but I'm just focusing on England here. So they basically say that there's 100,000 healthy life years are lost a year just in England as a result of excess exposure to road traffic noise, and that's 0.6 days per person per year. So it's not insignificant, and that's just road traffic noise. That's the regular activity from road traffic noise, nothing extraneous. So okay, so we talked about road traffic noise, and I think if any of us live near a busy road, you might sort of have to think that, well, some aspects of traffic noise is inevitable. It's not avoidable. It's part of life. Cars have to go from A to B, and inevitably people live adjacent to those highways. But hopefully you can hear us. Is this avoidable? Just double checking you can hear that. Okay, tell me if you can't. Okay, so this is the site. This is one of our early sites in London, and the camera here is mounted on a street column with residential units, so flats immediately behind. So the noise that you're hearing there, you would reasonably expect to hear inside someone's home, which is 3 or 4 feet behind the microphone and the camera. Here's another example. Okay, this is a site in New York City. That's obviously a truck using its jake brake. If you go to New York City, there are signs everywhere saying no jake brakes, but they seem to be quite widely disregarded. So again, arguably, that sound is not necessary. So if I move on to our experience and what we've done. So Kensington Chelsea in London, this is where we started. And they have, it's a very, very wealthy part of London, and they have a particular issue with noise from supercars. So here you go. And what they have is people in Lamborghinis, Porsches, Ferraris, whatever, driving them late at night in residential areas, tearing up the streets, basically making, not necessarily speeding, but making a lot of noise. And my own view is, I'm not an expert on this, but my own view is if you choose to paint your Lamborghini pink, you're probably not the kind of person who's going to not want to attract attention. So one thing is look at my pink Lamborghini, but the other is listen to it as well. So a big issue out there. And this is where we started. So the noise camera concept came from the council in Kensington and Chelsea, who had this particular issue, a very political issue. So lots of residents complaining to the various politicians, right the way, actually, all the way up to government, central government. So they asked us, they approached us and said, is there an opportunity? Is there a technical solution? Can something, is there a noise camera or something that can be used to police this? So I mentioned the I&M noise monitor that we developed previously that we were using in our wind farm work. So we took that and we rebuilt it. We put cameras on it, we reprogrammed it, and it became the first noise camera, albeit prototype. That was in 2019. And we worked with the politicians to help them with the sort of the legal background to it. So we're not lawyers, but we provided the technical input to the legal aspects. So we built our prototype. We built 2 prototypes. We tested them extensively for a year outside of office. So over my shoulder here, there is a 4-lane highway, very busy road, which leads into the centre of Southampton. And also in a village called Mearnstoke, which is in the South Downs area of outstanding natural beauty, and they have a lot of issues there with motorcycles, particularly on fine at weekends when the weather is nice, sort of tearing the road up there and causing a lot of issues for the residents that live there. So we tested our 2 systems for about a year. We then had COVID in between, which caused problems, slowed us down a bit. But once we were ready, we tested the first systems in London in September 2020. That's how they looked at that time. What we have is, this is our first generation system. I'll come on to our second generation system in a minute, but excuse me, hopefully it's relatively simple. We have a microphone here. This is called we refer to this as a class 1 accuracy microphone. That's an accuracy standard that's defined in an international standard. It's as accurate as you can get outside of a laboratory, and it's obviously super important if we're dealing with legal enforcement that our system is precise, accurate, properly calibrated, etc. So class 1 accuracy microphone, a pair of cameras, which usually orientated at 180 degrees to each other. So one looks up the road and one looks down the road. And then a box with a sound card, processor, and modem, etc. in there that does all the clever stuff. Now, basically, back in 2020, this was all quite novel, and it picked up a lot of media attention. And this is a clip from a TV show. This is called The One Show. It's a BBC show. It's a national show which goes out at 7 p.m. every night. And this is a feature that they gave on our cameras in Kensington and Chelsea. And I'm just showing it to you. It's about 4 minutes long, but it's just really good because it gives really good sort of layman's perspective, background, and context to it all. So I'm going to play that and see how that goes.
Now, if you live near a busy road, you might be familiar with this sound. It's not only annoying, it can also impact your health.
Yeah, but brand new technology is now putting the brakes on noisy cars, as Lindsay Russell found out.
If you live in a bustling town or city, your ears might be regularly exposed to loud noise.
But there's one sound that's really grinding the gears of people up and down the UK: noisy cars and motorbikes. And as someone who lives on a really busy road, I know a thing or two about the stress and anxiety that can cause.
The police can find drivers who cause a nuisance with too much noise, but it's not easy to gather evidence. So the big question is, how do you stop it?
Well, you've seen speed cameras. This is the new kid on the block, a noise camera.
The first 5 cameras to be installed in the UK are in London's Kensington and Chelsea, where they've had problems for years with owners of high-performance cars showing off their noisy engines.
We've seen people bringing cars into the area that have very loud exhausts, revving the vehicle, driving in a very noisy manner.
So how do these actually work?
So you've got a microphone and a couple of cameras. When the microphone detects a breach, it records the video, and then an officer will review it to make sure that there is an offence that they can issue a ticket for. We've had over 116 decibels recorded by one of these cameras. That's the equivalent of a chainsaw or a helicopter being right next to your ear, well above what they're legally allowed to make. Of our sort of 400 tickets that have been issued, we've only had very few that are repeat offenders. So clearly the message has sort of got through that if you're going to make this noise, this isn't the place to do it.
With the success in London, the government is pledging to invest £300,000 towards more of these cameras for England and Wales's noisiest streets. Tim Morsom reckons this street near where he lives in Leeds should be one of them.
You can see the tyre marks in the road. You know, this is where people are coming down here late at night doing donuts in the road, or sometimes it's used as a racing strip or a drag strip.
As well as drag racing, Tim says it's the modified exhausts that really raise the decibel levels.
They hugely increase the volume of the cars. It's, you know, a really powerful growl. Really, really loud, enough sometimes to make your windows shake. This noise can happen 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It really affects people's lives.
Frequently disrupted sleep can have a serious impact on our health.
Your brain has a awakened reaction to loud noises, which means when this happens, it increases the adrenaline and the cortisol hormones in your body, and it can cause a spike to your blood pressure and your heart rate.
So you're not actually resting or sleeping as well?
No, you're not. And that can affect your mental and your physical health. You're more likely to have anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, and even heart disease.
For Tim in Leeds, a camera could make all the difference.
It's really important for us to get this sorted. We're tired of having our sleep disrupted. This is a quiet, nice area. It should stay that way, and so we need to do something about it.
It's going to be interesting to see if that kind of technology makes a difference, I think. Now,
okay, well, hopefully it does make, excuse me, hopefully it does make a difference, or it is making a difference. The feedback we had from our 3-month trial in Kensington and Chelsea was that in that period they issued 165 fines, and they claimed that there were no repeat offenders. And the difference that the system was making then at that time, which was back in early 2021, was meagre attention, and a lot of the attention that we received was picked up overseas, and particularly in the US. And we were approached by New York City, Department for Environmental Protection in New York City, and they trialled the system beginning in 2021. So they took one unit and they moved it around. I think they had 5 or 6 different test locations around the city, and they tested it over the period over about a year. They really evaluated it very thoroughly, and we had lots of really great feedback from them. And this resulted in some technical changes that we implemented, and we launched the second generation system. And then this included new technology to identify the dominant vehicle. So if there's more than one vehicle in the video in the shot, then our system now identifies the one that's creating the sound, and automatically reads the vehicle's license plate, making it a semi-automated process. So that's the second generation system, and that's what we've now called SoundVue. The differences are, I mean, our Class 1 microphone, Class 1 accuracy microphone is still here. Our sound card and processor and router and the electronics are still here. In the box, but we now have dual sensor, high resolution LPR cameras that read the license plate, and then some clever technology up here, which is a microphone array, and a wide angle lens in the center. And this basically is the technology that enables us to identify the offending vehicle. And the way it does that is we've got 4 microphones here, and the sound reaching each microphone, they're spaced apart. The sound reaching each microphone has a tiny, tiny delay with it. It measures that delay, and from that it can triangulate the location of the offending noise source. So where we are at the moment, as of January 24, we have 10 systems in New York City. They are proven. New York City now has basically recently voted, and the cameras in New York City are permanent, and there will be more going there shortly. We have 10 permanent systems in New York City, which are all fining people instantly. And if you get caught in New York City, the initial fine is $850. It doubles on the second offence, and I think it peaks at, I think it's 2,500 for the third offence. So it's a fairly hefty fine, potentially a good financial deterrent. We have 12 systems in London, all fining people as well. £100 in London, so not quite as much as New York City. £100 is about 140 US dollars. We have other systems in various stages of trial and between trial and becoming permanent in Florida and California. And we're probably in discussion with at least 20 other spaces worldwide, a lot of them in the US, but others outside of the US as well. So there's a lot of interest, and clearly there is, it's new technology and it requires legislation to be effective, and that is, that is a sort of a barrier. So a lot of places are keen to go with this as quickly as possible, but they're hampered until they've passed the relevant bills to get them implemented. And there we are. That's one of our sites in New York City. That was a picture that I took about this time last year. Okay, and another little video here. This is a deputy mayor's meeting in New York City. And this is from March last year, when they just talk. It's about 3 minutes, and they just talk about the noise camera program and the success of it. Hopefully that's
Commissioner?
for you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to talk a little bit about noise cameras. Keeping New York safe also means protecting our quality of life. And managing noise pollution is a core part of DEP's mission. We get 45,000 311 complaints a year. It's the most of any category that we get. And many of those issues are the result of illegally modified mufflers. So starting in June 2021, we started a noise camera program. It's a cost-effective way of us, and a very innovative way of us trying to mitigate that noise. So how does it work? We pair a camera with sound meters, and they're able to pick up any noise that's detected above 85 decibels, 50 feet away from the camera. And then they are able to zoom in and get the license plate of the camera, of the vehicle rather, and then we're able to issue a summons. We go through the video, and actually we have an example here to show you what it looks like, if we want to cue that up. The red dot you'll see in the video is actually following the car making the noise. So that registered above 85 decibels. Just for some context, 85 decibels is about as loud as a lawnmower, which is pretty loud if you're trying to sleep. We set up a fine schedule, and the fine is, and it's quite steep. It's $800 for the first offense, $1,700 for the second offense, and $2,500 for every offense after that. So there is a real motivating factor to not get a summons in this particular case. I think of them like speed cameras, but for noise. And so far we've had one camera that we've been piloting all around the city. It's been tremendously effective in the number of potential complaints that we've seen. I think that's most of it.
So when is the plan? What's the plan to have the second camera and the third camera out? Do we have a projection of when we can expect to see more cameras that's out there?
Yeah, we sure do. These have been tremendously popular. Many council members have been asking for them in their districts. We plan to have an additional 7 cameras by the end of the year.
And, it's interesting, when I first took over in this job, I went around and I meet with a lot of elected officials, and one of the council members in Manhattan actually brought this up to me and said that it was his office who was the one who had pushed this legislation. So this is, once again, if the information is correct, it was actually spawned by a city council member. But just really important to the public out there, the objective here is not to write summonses, it's to correct behavior, right? So it's just a tool of writing summonses. They are steep, and it should, I mean, I would imagine that most people would want to avoid those summonses. But part of it is education and getting the word out there, because it is very, it's not good for the environment to have the cars who are riding by with some of these noise. So good work, Commissioner. Commissioner?
Okay, so I really like what the deputy mayor says at the end there. The purpose of it is not to write summonses, but it's to correct behaviour. That's really our mission. I think it's not to penalise motorists. It is really to correct behaviour and improve the lives of people that live, work, study in these areas where there is excess noise from use of vehicles. So very briefly, I'm nearly done, but very briefly, how the system works. It basically watches and listens continuously. We have some algorithms and AI that trigger on exhaust noise, music from cars and gate brakes, and also obviously noise level. When it triggers, it uploads a 14-second clip to a web server. The microphone array detects the offending vehicle, identifies the vehicle, puts a marker on the vehicle, and then the LPR camera reads the license plate. And the user then can log in, so the operator can log in via a secure website, password protected website. They can look at all the evidence. They can look at the video. They can look at the noise level, the graph showing the noise level, and they can listen to the video. They can see the license plate, and they can determine whether it's a violation or not. And that process can be done manually or it can be done automatically, depending on how the user works. And then we also have partnership with a third-party provider, or an independent partnership, I should say, who provides additional services, so what we call back office services, which is effectively they take over from our system at the point where it ends. So it's the sort of the IT side of things. So they can undertake their own human verification that the violation is accurate, that the license plate has been read correctly, which I believe is something that's done with all camera enforcement systems, all types of camera enforcement systems. They will connect to the appropriate databases to identify the owner of the vehicle. They administer the fine or the warning if it's not, they deal with the payments. If it's not, if the payment's not made, they can then deal with the next stage or court action whenever that is required. So they manage all of that process, taking it away from the city who probably have better use of their time. So in summary, there are lots of pilot studies out at the moment. There's lots of RFPs around the world, and I've just submitted an RFP today to Sydney in Australia for a trial. But our system is not a concept. It's proven. It's out there in London and in New York, actively finding people, and has been for several years. We know we have over 3 years of data now, and we know that it is improving quality of lives, health and well-being. It's doing what it should do. We know that people that drive past our systems, or what we used to drive past our systems, are now going elsewhere and having their fun somewhere else. And yeah, as I've already emphasised, we're actively, a lot of our clients, our customers, are actively finding motorists in London, and we have a long list of other cities worldwide that are waiting to catch up or using our systems, but issuing warnings whilst they wait for legislation to catch up. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening. I hope it was informative, and obviously I'll take any questions that you've got.
Excellent. Thank you, Reuben. Amazing. I think you answered a lot of questions right now in that presentation. And one of them that I had was actually, yes, thank you. How can people contact you? So thank you for having that up. That's great. I hope everybody takes that down. So I have a number of questions in the chat here. So I'm just going to start going through some of those. There's lots of support for this. That's for sure. So does your noise camera detect other sounds? How does it differentiate between a siren, between a car honking, or amplified sound? Does it have any other applications?
It does have so at the moment we have algorithms that detect exhaust noise, music. It does detect sirens as well. We sometimes program it so it detects sirens so that they get discounted, so we don't get a false trigger and jailbreak. It's all down to, I mean, in theory, it can be programmed to detect almost any sounds based on source recognition technology. But those are the four that we focus on at the moment.
Okay. Excellent. So there was a couple more questions about the actual process about the data. So let me go through here. So you went through it very quickly. So how is the camera powered? And then that was one of the questions. And then just how does the process work? So from taking a picture, how does it actually get to issuing a fine? Is that different for different jurisdictions?
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to rewind a little bit to show you. Just bear with me. That's not going to play. Okay.
And so the question is this done wirelessly, and is it recorded and then collected manually from each unit, that kind of thing?
No. So the system is mounted on, in this case, it's mounted on a light column on a lamppost. So it takes mains power off the lamppost. We quite like using lampposts because it's a cheap way. It's an economic way of getting them in the right location. Generally, there's lots of them, so you have lots of choice, and they have power. So otherwise, you would need to build a bespoke column for this application and put power to it. So you're talking sort of public works and infrastructure to do that. So lampposts are great for that. In terms of how it works, it's excuse me, it's logging all the time. It's recording video all the time, but it also erases it all the time. Unless it triggers. So when it triggers on all the algorithms that I mentioned just now, and on noise level, then it automatically sends a clip to the cloud. So we have a router. It's on the 4G network. So it sends it all automated. So it's all automated, and the data that goes to the cloud is noise level, video, audio. So you can look at the video that's being produced. You can listen to the audio. You can see the noise level. You can see the car. You can identify the license plate, etc. So no, there is no. Once it's up in the air, there is other than to calibrate it every between 12 and 2 years. There is no requirement to go back to it.
Awesome. Interesting. Couple questions here about decibel levels. So in New York, it's 85. Is it the same in other cities? And also, is it possible to able to do a trigger between a daytime decibel level and a nighttime decibel level? Can you have two different triggers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all just down to the programming. So yes, it can trigger different levels at different times. What we find is, I mean, the ordinances are all slightly, obviously talking about the US, the ordinances across the US are all slightly different. The legal structure there is quite fragmented. I think in New York City, from memory, it's 85 at 50 feet. Other places might be something similar at 45 or 60 at 65 or something like that. So they all vary slightly. And obviously, the distance is very relevant. But what we tend to do, we install, and then we have machine learning that sets the triggers according to the environment we're in. So on this site here, there is some big buildings opposite, so we get sound reflecting back off those buildings. So we have sort of slightly different triggers on that basis. So each is unique to each site, basically.
So I guess when a city is designing a pilot project, do you take a certain area and then how many meters would you put into a certain area in order to determine the reliability and viability of the results?
Basically, what we would do is, I mean, they would have a customer would have a particular road that they are bothered by, and they would narrow down the location, and we would help them choose the location for the camera. Based on, excuse me, who's living nearby, or not who's living there, whether it's a residential area, and generally probably only one system in England Street, and the system goes up and it learns the environment, and we monitor it remotely, and generally, it's a calibrated, accurate system, so it doesn't need anything else.
Interesting. Couple questions regarding using this for amplified sound, or in, I know we talked about other triggers, but could this be used in other instances, for example, in an entertainment district, to make sure that operators,
it's just down to programming. So yeah, and we have what you may not, well, you may or may not, I don't know, you may not need the source ID function. So the microphone array up here, which is what determines where the sound is coming from. You may not need that in an entertainment district, but we do have separate systems which are camera-based noise monitors. So yeah, it can all be applied for that kind of thing.
Interesting. It sounds like you have a suite of products for different applications.
We do, yeah. We do.
Excellent. Yeah. I've got a question here about, have you linked speed through acoustics? There's someone who's looking at that correlation between speed and acoustics. Do you have anything there?
We haven't, and I think it would be extremely difficult to do. I mean, these days, speed is usually measured using radar. I'm thinking of if you haven't talked to that person offline, actually, if they want to approach me. But I think it would be, I think it would. Actually, in theory, it could be done, but I think it would be very inaccurate. So no, it's not something I think compared to radar, for example, I think, no, I don't. It could be done, but I don't think it's going to be very reliable.
Excellent. Well, I've got a great question here from one of our city staffers here, and that is, what are the legal enforcement constraints in Kensington and Chelsea, and how are they overcome?
Okay, so in London, so we don't have in the UK, we don't have a legislation in place yet to allow noise cameras to be used sort of universally across the country. So but what we do have in London is, and we have cameras in Kensington and Chelsea. We have them in Westminster, a different borough, and also in Wandsworth, which is another borough. And they have what's known as a public space protection order, which is the legislation under which they enforce there. And that defines a geographical area. So if you like a grid on a map where where the order applies, and it relates to antisocial behaviour. So that might be people drinking in the streets. It might be people shouting, and it's also antisocial driving. And that's how it's enforced. So it's on the basis of that legislation.
Yeah. Here in Ontario, we have the Highway Traffic Act, and my understanding is that we would actually need to, as residents here, and the city, that we actually need to advocate for the province to make changes to our Highway Traffic Act. Yeah. Because as we understand it right now, the act needs to be amended to permit cities to photograph, charge, and fine those who commit those. So
that sounds familiar. Yeah.
That sounds familiar to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, scrolling through some more questions. Got great ones here. So, here we go. Speed cameras here are targeted by vandalism. How do you deal with vandalism, and how do you deal with how's New York dealing with those issues?
Well, actually, touch wood, we've had none. We've had no issues at all. The worst thing we've had is a London bus hit one. But that was vandalism. That was just careless driving. And pleasingly, and we have it all on video, and pleasingly, it continued working afterwards. We did need to recalibrate it though. But yes. So no, we've had. I mean, I'm sure it will happen, but so far, no randomism. I mean, it's fairly high up in the air. So the lower cameras are 4 meters, and the microphone array is at 6. So you have to be a reasonably, if you were going to throw a stone at it, you'd need to be quite a good shot. And if you wanted to climb up there and hit it with a hammer, you'd have to be fairly adventurous. So, but I'm sure it will happen. But so far, no, it hasn't.
Well, that's a good thing. That's excellent. A question about how they take pictures at night. Is it clear? The video image and the recordings, how does that work?
Infrared sensors in the cameras.
Aha, there we go. Excellent. Yes. So in regards to ticketing, and have there been any challenges? You were saying that you have not been called to court yet as an expert witness.
No, we haven't. New York City have had, and I only found this out just before Christmas. I've had quite a lot of challenges, and every single one has been dismissed. So they've all been upheld. So yes, it's standing up well.
Excellent. Okay, so I'm just scrolling through some more questions here, and we've answered a lot of them. So let me just is there any more in the chat here? There are people saying that they want to crowdfund for this for the cameras. So can you give us any indication? There's a number of questions in here on price. So can you give us any indication of how you manage that?
Yeah, we have either outright purchasing options or leasing options.
Okay.
New York, I mean, New York, I think it's probably fair to say that the fine revenue probably means that they pay for themselves in time.
Yeah.
Particularly with the sort of the extent of the New York fines. But yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Scrolling through again here, ticketing. So here, day versus night. Looking for some more radio cameras, radar. Have you studied? Okay, here we go. Have you studied increased pollution and modified vehicle emits over an OEM vehicle? So,
Yeah, so modified. I mean, it's illegal to modify a muffler, certainly in the UK, and certainly is in most parts of the US. It probably is in Canada as well. So it's fitting a muffler that is not out of the factory is against the law. In fact, in New York, they're clamping down on the workshops that do that stuff. Obviously, yeah, if that happens, that's one thing. But I mean, what we focus on is our system. Our system just hears the sound. Yeah, so it doesn't matter whether it's somebody driving a Ferrari who just has a very heavy red foot, or somebody in a sort of a less exotic car just driving, with a modified exhaust. It's some of it's down to their driving style.
yep.
Choose. If you drive a Ferrari, yes, it can be noisy, but you can choose whether to pull away from the lights and do it gently, or to put your foot flat on the floor and make a lot of noise. It's down to the driver rather than the car. But certainly, yeah, modified exhaust are a big issue.
Yeah. And, really, I mean, it's two choices. First, the driver modifies their car. And then secondly, they choose to drive it. It's driver behavior, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot, I think, that we need to, at least in Ontario, that we need to look at between the relationship between the city and Toronto Police Services, and then Toronto Police Services and the Highway Traffic Act. It's a little bit of a tangled web, but we are certainly learning. And so in the audience, if there's anyone out there who has knowledge on this, please reach out to info@nomoreNoiseToronto.com, because we are trying to figure all of this out. So we are just at just about 12:50. So Reuben, if I can ask you to not share your screen.
Yeah, no worries.
Excellent. There we go. Okay. So thank you everyone for that really great Q&A. And so what I'm going to do now is so now so you are now the host. Could you please make me the host again?
I'm the host, am I? Okay, this may be challenging.
That's how I made that work. You find my name and find the dots. Let me see here.
There you go. Yeah, we're done.
Okay, we tried something different this time. I enabled a practice session and invited panelists. So every time this has been a little bit of an interesting adventure. So apologies for those that didn't get the whole link in advance. This is being recorded, as you know, and will be shared. Sorry, hold on, stop share. And so I will be sending the video out. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share this screen. So you guys some people have answered a question here. So I always like to know about the audience. So this is a noise survey. Let's see so what is your most annoying noise source? So this is a word cloud of your answers here in construction, motorcycles, sirens, cars. So it's generally, other than construction, it's vehicle related. So in theory, and I guess, Reuben, do you have sound level measurements at construction sites as well? Yes.
Hundreds of thousands, probably. Yes, we do. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And then the next question was, I'm annoyed by noise while I'm trying to rest and relax. And here we have 2 rarely, 9 occasionally, 24 frequently, and 8 almost all the time. And I am in the almost all the time. Wintertime we get a little bit of a reprieve here in Canada. I think some of those supercars, the suspension is a little too hard for them to to bring the pretty cars out, but that doesn't mean to say that those Honda Civics aren't active at all hours and all seasons. And what do you want Toronto to sound like? So this is a question that I asked in a live event, and at first people were like, they didn't know, because we actually don't think about what we want our city to sound like, because I think we're so actively thinking about what we don't want to hear. So I always find this a very interesting answer, and people just generally want to have some more peace in their day, and especially at night. So with that, I'm going to minimize this screen, and now we have the Mentimeter results, which we just went through. And so Toronto is going through the noise bylaw review process. So I had this webinar at a certain time so that we can get educated on what is possible. Oh, hello. So here we go. So this bylaw review started in 2015. In the fall of last year, we had public consultations in the feedback window. So we had over 750 people participated in the public consultations, and over 2,200 emails were sent to city staff for feedback. Then on January 11th, noise was discussed at the Economic and Community Development Committee meeting. And in advance of that, through the No More Noise email campaign platform, over 500 emails were sent. Thank you very much for those of you that did that. And we also had over 40 people making deputations and sharing their story with the city councillors. And it was some of them are heartbreaking, honestly, but I believe we were heard and we made an impact. So thank you for those of you that took that big breath and shared your story. So what's coming up now is February 6th to 8th is when the City Council is meeting. And on one of those days, they will be voting on the recommendations that came out of the meeting on January 11th. In advance of that, we are going to be creating a new email campaign just to make sure the city knows how we feel about noise. And so what you can do is, if you can visit nomorenoisetoronto.com, and I'm just going to quickly go there. And so this is the website. So you can sign up for Noise News to keep in touch and keep informed. Donate, as I mentioned, we are completely volunteer and are run by donations. So thank you in advance for those. We have over $13,000 in donations already. And we also have information sessions and events. So this is where you would have found the Eventbrite listing to register for today. Additionally, each one of these is basically a website that goes into the details of Toronto's noise issue, problem, data, the bylaw review. And I'm just going to quickly show, because I'm not sure, Reuben, if you've actually seen this. So this is the crowdsourced data that we collect. And we collect it through three surveys. And so we actually have a dashboard here. And as of a couple days ago, we had over 9,231 reports. And this is Esri functionality. So this is GIS, Geographical Information Systems, and this is actually can be worldwide. So this is a functionality that can be used in New York, Vancouver, everywhere. Somebody over here actually entered a noise report. So, and then all of this then becomes dashboards. And so I have a university student from the University of Toronto, a senior level, who's helping me with all of this analysis. And yeah, so we also have a leaf blower report, because leaf blowers, one of the things with the city is that they will only take reports for the time that the noise source is not allowed. So you cannot report noise, you cannot report leaf blowers during the day. However, many people are bothered by leaf blowers during the day. So this is just a way that No More Noise Toronto is making a bit of a difference on the data side. So with that, we've got a couple more, we got just a few minutes left here. So with that, that's the QR code to No More Noise Toronto. I'm going to stop sharing now. And Reuben, if you'd like to have any final comments or thoughts.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, whilst you're speaking now, I've just looked through the chat for the first time. So there was one main point actually, and I knew I'd missed something, which someone mentioned. Does the system detect illegal horn honking? And the answer to that is yes, it does. And actually, that's quite an important feature of it. And I completely forgot to mention that. So yes, it does. So it detects, and that, in New York, I think honking horns is as big an issue as revving engines, to be honest. Yes, it does.
Excellent. So there we go. And Janine is happy about that good news about horns.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm glad you addressed that. And I'm just looking here. Are there currently, okay, so then there was a little bit more about noise pollution and in the entertainment districts. And I think you answered that we do use
yeah.
SoundVue cameras. Somebody also asked about the nuisance monitor. How do people get a hold of that? By contacting you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, so with that, we've got a couple minutes left here. And somebody's asking when we share this video. Everyone, this is being recorded. I will trim it up and put it up on the YouTube channel for nomoreNoiseToronto.com. And then I will also share it, so then you can share it from there, but I will also share it with everyone that has registered. Again, we are trying something new and we're learning as we go. And so I thank everyone for their attendance. So Reuben, they're just asking for the best way to contact you again. So would you?
Yeah, I think email is probably best. So it's Reuben, Reuben. Shall I write it into the chat? That might be better.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Should be able to do that. So everyone, I imagine people are going to start dropping off. So thank you so much for attending on your lunch hour. And there is Reuben's email in the chat and soundvue.com. And like I say, just try the contact us button. It was amazing that actually worked. So thank you very much for attending and much appreciated. So wishing you all a great day and a good sleep.
Thank you.
Reuben, thanks so much. Much appreciated.
No worries. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Cheers.
Okay. Bye-bye.